Day 107, the DynCorp harvest. In this series, we talk about how this company named DynCorp is creating police forces and training police forces to set up harvesting of organs, how to set up sex trafficking and drug trafficking situations to blackmail local political people, local police, and then using viruses and vaccines also on suspecting populations. So there's quite a bit DynCorp does. This general right here, General Grange, who was involved in the overthrow of Libya and Syria, you're going to find that he's in Vietnam 50 years ago. And the name of the gang isn't Muslim Brotherhood, it's the Hmong, H-M-U-N-G. I think it's pronounced the Hmong. But they're the poppy growers in Laos, and so that whole area is involved in a secret war. They're basically defending their poppy fields the whole Vietnam War and sending the drugs, the heroin, to American GIs. That's why they rotated the GIs through for only 1 year, is to get as many hooked on heroin as possible. So that's the story of the Hmong. They're still being used today by DynCorp trained police officers in the United States, mainly sheriffs that have gone to train at these Green Beret training sites, these special op training sites. Fort Bragg and Fort Benning are the two places that you're going to have these DynCorp folks training. And then they're going to be a cop for a while, maybe like let's say a California state police officer. Then they're going to go train here in Fort Benning or Fort Bragg. Then they're going to go to Kosovo. Then they're going to go to Bosnia. Then they're going to go to Haiti. Then they're going to go to anywhere the UN is, anywhere UN peacekeepers are. So this is just a repeating pattern. And the thing that the US just doesn't realize yet is these guys are now the kind of the militarized police, that it's kind of like the infiltration of police departments in the United States with these DynCorp guys, mainly through a county. The reason why a county is you can have one city over here and way in the corner of the county that's doing all the drug operations, that's doing all the human trafficking and the drug trafficking. And then the main city doesn't ever see it. So the hill people, can be over there or some other part of the county where you can bring in the Hmong growers for the marijuana, for instance, or you can bring in other groups from like Mexico and so forth to raise the marijuana. So that's what's happening in the United States. His son, by the way, is in charge of the plan to put down any kind of rebellion or occupation of public buildings in the United States. So, and by the way, it's all managed by Promise and Palantir. Promise was this prosecutor system. This is Robert Maxwell, the super spy of Israel, selling this to the nations around the world. And basically it was a list of all the bad guys. Well, the CIA, instead of arresting all the bad guys, co-opted all the bad guys to run these networks, to run these rat lines. It showed the CIA where to go to get the manpower. So they went directly after, the Cosa Nostra in Italy to set up the French Connection and other things like that. So Palantir is that same thing. It's managing all these projects, the virus vaccine, sex, drug trafficking, gun trafficking. Fast and Furious is going to be another one that Palantir is going to be managing, or Promise, or a combination of both. So anyway, this is from the documents that were released a couple days ago. This is an FBI walk-in, they call it. It happened on the 27th of January. And basically what happened was, this is a longtime State Department employee that was going to turn over these emails. And I believe this is Patrick Kennedy saying, hey, I want to be interviewed in a secure communications facility. That means these are above top secret, special compartmentalized plans. So this has been sat on for a year. Nobody's ever talked about this. Of course, now you have Julian Assange, who's got till the 19th. So we're going to be counting down the days until Assange gets booted, and they're going to arrest him in Sweden first. They're not going to bring him straight to the United States. They're going to try to do that later. But if he has my darn 650,000 emails, I sure would like to see a few of them. So anyway, if everybody knows that story. Here's Steve Feinberg, who owns DynCorp through Cerebus Capital. And you're going to find that the Council on Foreign Relations that he's a part of is kind of like a venture capital firm for dark black budget projects. They're going to be spraying people from helicopters with viruses and then going on site with Yale anthropologists to do the vaccines to see how that's going. They're going to be setting up these brownstone operations, Operation Underground Railroad. This is the whole camera kit, all the low light cameras that you need to set up a sting for. You're going to want to sting the local mayor, you're going to want to sting the local police chief, and then pretty much you're on your way after that point. Maybe sting the guy who's in charge of the budget. You're on your way. You can do that at any level: state, local, federal. It works all the way up. They work down though. So you're going to find this outpour setting up all these revolutions. And as soon as the revolution is done, and then the UN peacekeepers come in, then they go straight into the organ harvesting. They set up that. They set up the child trafficking. And you see here he's kind of trying to generate hate amongst a Bosnian group or a Kosovo group. This group's actually, near Kosovo's from Albania. They call them the Albanian Kosovars. So you probably remember George Soros, talking about taking over Albania. And they create them, always different, white helmets. They'll create in Syria. They'll create blue helmets for the UN in some other country. So here we go. Here's the Council on Foreign Relations. Of course, Pug Winokur is a big member from DynCorp, longtime member. Of course, Jeffrey Epstein's a member with his young girlfriend there. Watch your hands, Jeff. And then we've got Steve Feinberg. And you can see that his house here, this brownstone, is right around the corner from Pratt House. You're going to find the School of the Deaf is up front. It's a School of the Deaf. 95% of them are real, but it also gives you a reason to have kids and women coming in and out of and there's going to be a panel here that they're going to remove. This is the Eyes Wide Shut situation. Book by Al Martin was written about this, The Conspirators. Basically said this is a venture capital meeting, where the 12 guys sit around and evaluate black budget projects. So you're going to have DynCorp type folks say, well, let's do this virus thing in Haiti. Let's do this organ trafficking thing in Kosovo. Let's do this organ trafficking thing or the CDC thing in Haiti, or let's do this in Colombia, that sort of thing. So we want to start a growing operation in Colombia or Peru, the hills of Peru, and we'll then have the Colombians bring it down, and then we'll fly it to either Haiti or we'll fly it through Guantanamo in Cuba. A lot of the reasons people think that Haiti was set up with the earthquake was because Guantanamo would be shut down, so they need a transshipment point. So that's the background there. But it's this cast of thieves always. You're going to see this, if you haven't seen earlier episodes, this consolidated contractors. The reason why it's consolidated is when you go into a country, when the CIA goes into a country, they go around and intimidate every person in the construction industry. And they say, we're going to create a union out of all you, and we're going to run it. And that's what this consolidated contractors is. They come in and say, look, if you don't play ball, you're going to be dead. So you get involved here. And that way they they get single source bidding from USAID that way. It's basically how these guys become billionaires. This is the U.S. operation. This is going to be the U.S. operation for DynCorp. It's going to be called JTTF. But it's basically 3,000 counties. Trump won 3,000 counties, Hillary won 83. That's going to be about your split for JTTF. They want to put DynCorp, trained military police, and you'll see these medals the UN gives out for the Kosovo Merit, Order of Merit, and the Haiti Order of Merit. And you'll see, the Philippines is another big one. You're going to find Papua New Guinea also, and Indonesia. Anywhere the UN peacekeepers are. You just look for those medals, and you know that they're DynCorp. And then look for your county sheriff wherever you live, and look for that resume, and you're going to find it. Now, a lot of them have scrubbed their resumes. Claude Destre has scrubbed his resume from ever having worked for DynCorp. But it's all about asset forfeiture. It's all about local control, destroying any political opponents. Not political opponents, Democrats, Republican, but any opponents to this kind of big brother state. Anybody who's challenging the status quo. So today in Haiti, we've got Omarosa down there as part of Trump's delegation, and she's, I guess, going to be ringing in the new Moise, the new drug trafficker who wasn't even known in Haiti a year ago. And the guy who's covered this is this guy, Sam Maxime. He's done a really good job he wrote this article about the cholera, and he successfully linked it to the Nepalese peacekeepers that had poisoned the Mirabai so that they could have cholera victims to get the teaching hospital up and running. So that was a good article and a good writer. And then just everywhere they go, I just picked another one randomly today, but this is the Central African Republic. Basically, it was broken off from Chad and Sudan, and there's more raping and killing. They call it, they starve the kids, so the kids are like 6 years old. And they don't, they give them food. So they'll have these peacekeepers give them food in exchange for sex. So that's not really a transaction. That's kind of rape. And then the killing as well. So, the missing 302s here, I think, with today, a Judicial Watch is in court in Washington, D.C. They're asking, who are these 19 people? That's exactly what this whole thing is about. They're in court today saying, hey, tell us who the 19 people are, who use Gmail accounts. So I'll follow up on that this afternoon, let you know how that turned out. Roger Stone did a pretty good article or a little film, Trump's advisor or used to be advisor about this Haiti situation. So, and Zili Danto was interviewed by him, and it's one of these things that generate interest and generate awareness, so that Haiti again can be used as kind of a microcosm for Chicago. I believe that the people are being taken from Haiti on these ships. They're working on these ships. They're being taken to Jacksonville. And the hospital ships also stops in Jacksonville, that Comfort hospital ship. And I believe then they're being transported to Chicago while they're alive, and then being harvested in that close by. I don't know what, some medical center. It's going to be at late at night. I don't know if it's University of Chicago. At Chicago Circle or not. I can't figure out which one it is, but I think it's going to be the University of Chicago where the harvesting is. They're not harvesting, I don't believe they're harvesting Americans, but it could be that the people that are being killed are the people that are involved in the human trafficking of getting them from Jacksonville up to Chicago. Okay, so I looked at Bill Swing. I think his dad was on the Council of Foreign Relations. The names just keep repeating. But I'm more convinced than ever now that what happened was they hit a whole population with a virus in this middle country here, and then they moved people in that had been pre-vaccinated into that area to take over this farmland. For some reason, they want that farmland, and especially this coastline. They want to build these hotels. So I haven't completely figured out the idea of vectoring, but this idea of vectoring goes all the way back to World War I with the Spanish flu, and a lot of people were killed in the Spanish flu because they had cultured it. It's normally found in birds, but then it has to be moved over to a mammal close to the human in order for it to affect humans, and that was the pig. So that's the bird swine flu. And a lot of people think, it was to create Israel and make sure that the Israelis got sent out, because the Israelis, or not the Israelis, but at that time the Jews were thought to be the contagion. So they were sent to Israel to create Israel, to make good on the Balfour Declaration. That's just Israeli folklore, but I don't have any proof of that. So future of journalism is data analysis. I think, like I was talking about epidemiology before, the first thing is to be able to get the data of where these kids are from the school and get the data from the migrations. And there's a bunch of Harvard and Yale studies on this. So I think this is taking that Yale and Harvard information and then mapping it with Google Maps. There's a way to do that, to do the pins and dots and so forth. I think it's called Google Sheets to Map or Google Maps, something like that. There's an add-on to Google Maps that allows you to quickly, from a spreadsheet like this, do the dots. And this is going to be a connect the dots game. Proving all this out is going to be a connect the dots game. It's serious data intensive. But if anybody has any expertise in that, I'm really interested in pursuing that. So I'll finish up here and just say, here's we may get a hint on the 650,000 emails today about who the to and from, who had accounts. So we're a little bit closer on who had the 19 Gmail accounts. I think the metadata will fall out of this naturally, because as soon as we see the 19 accounts, then they have to produce the 650,000 metadata. I mean, everyone's going to see all the names and they're going to go, hey, this wasn't, about Hillary's wedding or about Chelsea's wedding. So, and again, Andrew McCabe, number 2 at the FBI, still hasn't recused himself. The Miami office of the FBI still hasn't gone to Haiti to do any investigation, still destroying evidence, still with the 5 years, nothing's changed. The only difference is Israel, China, and Russia have these emails. So you're at their behest. It's in your best interest to publish those. Okay, I'll let everybody know what happens this afternoon.